Thank you so much for this introduction. It's an honor to be invited to present to the Trevand group. As Tina mentioned, I'm with AARP California. I serve as a program specialist there, but beyond that, I'm also a certified aging in place specialist, as well as a communications and public affairs professional here in the Bay Area. So nice to be among my people. I'd like to share a couple of headlines about AARP before we begin. So for those of you who may not necessarily be familiar with AARP and AARP in California, I'll just give you the top headlines. So many people don't realize that AARP is actually made up of several entities. AARP Services, Inc. oversees and manages the relationships with companies that provide national AARP member benefits and services. So I think about my favorite, or one of my favorite benefits, the discount at Denny's, the travel insurance, the supplemental health insurance, and the magazine. So that's all AARP Services, Inc. Now, the AARP Foundation is our affiliated charity, and the AARP Foundation works to ensure that low-income, vulnerable, older adult Americans have nutritious food, affordable housing, a steady income, and strong and sustaining social bonds. Now, AARP, where our efforts reside, is a nonprofit, nonpartisan social mission membership organization. State offices like ours in California, we actually have a satellite here in San Jose where I live. We're not involved in any way with marketing products, services, or membership. So you could rest assured that I won't try to sell you anything today. Having said that, with everyone spending copious amounts of time at home right now due to the global pandemic, we thought this presentation might help those of you who are thinking about cleaning and organizing your home. It's springtime and a lot of us just get in the mood for cleaning and organizing. So at the end of this webinar, we hope that you'll walk away with 10 tips for downsizing and decluttering your home. So are we all familiar with this icon? Yes, no, maybe? Well, this is King Tut, and we'll say a little bit more about this gentleman later. So we have a couple of key goals today, but I hope we have some fun too. Okay, so let's just jump right in. Let's look at 10 helpful tips for organizing and getting rid of your stuff. Tip number 1, include everyone living in the house. That means your spouse, partner, kids, grandkids, everyone. No one's exempt. Downsizing could be a massive task, and enlisting members of your household will help you know that you aren't alone in this Herculean project. Now, if you live alone, like many of us do, we recommend that you get moral support from your family and friends. Sometimes just telling someone that you're embarking on a new project helps keep you accountable. So time for a quick poll. How long have you lived in your current home? Go ahead and enter into the chat, if you can, the number of years you've lived in your home. I'm going to pull up the chat here. 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, 15, 10, 8, 42. Wow. Okay, 43, 57. Wow, that is amazing. So let's see who, Barbara, she's lived in her home 57 years, 31 years. Clarice, Carol, wow, that is remarkable. So some of us, 40 plus, okay, just 40 plus, I like that, Sally. So some of us have lived in our homes for 40 plus years. Um, when you think about all that time we've been in our homes, do we think we could downsize or realistically downsize by ourselves just all in one weekend? Probably not. So we need help. We need help with getting this task done. And even if you'd prefer to do it by yourself, it's important to include everyone in the home, especially your kids and grandkids if they live with you. Understand that it's going to take some time, and helpful hands make the project go quicker. Tip number 2, the 10-minute sweep. It can take a long time to clean up a room. So try to focus on baby steps, not just one large room at a time. That would be overwhelming. We find that the 10-minute sweep is the best way to clean a room. So instead of looking at the room as a whole, look at it by small 2-foot by 2-foot areas. We like to compare this to losing 50 pounds. If you try to lose 50 pounds in one week, it doesn't work. But if you try to focus on 1 pound at a time, it eventually works. So have everyone in the family pick a 2-foot by 2-foot area, and everyone just clean for 10 minutes. We suggest you try it at night, 10 minutes before your favorite television show comes on. If you stay consistent 5 nights a week, every week, you'll see that your home will start to look clean just after a few weeks. Tip number 3, unpack your bags. So this may not feel super relevant at this moment, but we'll all be traveling again someday. So here's a question for you. What is the proper way to unpack a bag after vacation? So if you like, feel free to unmute yourselves or go ahead and put your answer in the chat. What is the proper way to unpack a bag after vacation? Well, we often hear 2 answers. One answer is immediately when you get home, you unpack your bag. And the second answer is, I unpack my bag right before my next trip. And really the answer that we're looking for is immediately when you come home. Same goes for the grocery bags when you get home from the store. And given the current pandemic, I'm going to share some recommendations from a recent AARP article. So when you're thinking about grocery bags, once you get in the door, put down those shopping bags or goods on the floor, and then just walk straight to the sink to wash your hands. After that, you can put your groceries and other supplies away, after which both experts advise another round of hand washing. And then given that contact with food and food packaging isn't the main way the virus spreads, health experts maintain that there's no need to carry out special disinfecting procedures on food packages or produce once you return home. And using products like soap or other disinfectants on food can pose a different set of health risks. So instead, just do what you would normally do. Rinse fresh produce like you would with clear water, and wash your hands before preparing food or eating meals. And then going back to the unpacking luggage, I personally have to share that in the past, I have not been so great about unpacking luggage. And so for my next trip, I will buy a pair of flip-flops. So as a result of not unpacking, I have a couple of pairs of flip-flops from previous trips. And it's because I don't know that I have them. So instead of like 1 pair of flip-flops that I could have used just over and over again with like it taking less space in my house, like now I have 5. So now I unpack my bags immediately after I get home. Tip 4, every item has a home. So don't let the stuff you bring home stack up like I just did with like all my flip-flops. Just put everything immediately, everything where it's supposed to go. Which brings us to another tip, equal in, equal out. So equal in, equal out means that when you bring something new into the home, something of the same size has to come out. So it's a helpful rule. It's important to remember that just because an item is on sale doesn't necessarily mean your home gets bigger. Tip number 5, I love this tip. It's called the 4-pile sort. So when sorting your items, break things up into 4 piles. Have a keep pile, sell pile, donate, and then a trash pile. So as you're sorting through your stuff, it's important to put the sell and donate piles next to you and the keep pile further away. It's amazing to see how much you don't keep if you have to walk all the way across the room just to keep it. So we are at the midway point with our tips. So I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions in the chat. Oh, yes, Keith, you already knew. Do it immediately. Unpack immediately. Sorry, I didn't see that earlier. Any questions? Feel free to unmute yourselves or place your question in the chat about any of the tips that we have offered. Okay, well, I don't see any questions in the chat right now, so I'll go ahead and move on. But if a question comes to mind, feel free to drop it in the chat and I'll be sure to take a pause and get to those questions in a little bit. Tip number 6, distribute legacy items now. So what distributing legacy items now means is that you no longer tell a loved one you will give them something when you are gone. So many times we hear people say they want to give something away to their children when they pass, but really, you should just give it to them now. And giving it away now lets you enjoy seeing them use it, and it empties out your home faster. Tip 7, avoid punting. Ask people if they want it. So what is punting? Punting is guilting the next generation into taking an item they probably don't want anyway. We often have furniture that we have kept from our parents because we knew they would be upset if we didn't take it. But we never actually wanted it, and we kept it out of obligation. Well, guess what? The other generations, the next generations, they don't necessarily feel that obligation. So it's important to ask if they want it. You ask them, and then if the person says they don't want it, then please don't say, well, you just don't know that you want it yet, and save it for them anyway. If they don't want it, they've expressed that they don't want it, and it's our job to respect it. So just sell or donate the item to someone who does want it or need it. Tip number 8, donate, donate, donate. The reality is there is always someone else who needs it more than we do. Focus on finding a place you want to give something away to versus how much it's worth. So for now, store these items in a designated room in your house or garage. When public health restrictions are lifted, nonprofit organizations like the Salvation Army will resume picking up donated items on the curbside. Some organizations like Goodwill have already opened and are accepting drop-off donations. Every region, as we know here in California, every county is different. So do your research and just call ahead of time. At this time, I'd like to invite folks to drop into the chat or to unmute themselves and share about, let us know what nonprofit organizations you enjoy donating to.
Can I start?
Yes.
Hi, this is Andy. I volunteer at a thrift store for an organization called UFS. It's Children's Services. And I just really wanted to emphasize, when you donate your clothes or your furniture, make sure that they're in good condition, because we just have to turn around and throw them away if they're not resellable.
Thank you for sharing that. Yes, so there is a caveat. If you are going to donate, please make sure it's in good condition. A lot of these organizations use your donations to sell these items to fund their programs or services, worthy programs like UFS, who help children. So be sure that they are in good shape. Think of our friend here who's got to accept those donations and have to figure out a way to trash them if they're not in sellable condition. I see here in the chat, PARCA. Could someone tell me what PARCA stands for?
Parka.
Parka. And what do they do?
They come around and pick up items very similar to like the good Salvation Army, and then they'll take it and use it. They've been around for years and years and years.
Oh, great.
I think originally it was aid to retarded citizens, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Okay, so they go by Parka now, just like AARP goes by AARP.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for sharing. That is wonderful that they're currently accepting donations. Earlier in the pandemic, most places were closed down, but slowly I'm starting to hear from other community groups that that folks are now accepting donations and even picking them up. Julie says homeless shelters, yes. Really very much a lot of these homeless shelters, what they'll do is they'll go through your items and redistribute clothing and items that homeless individuals need. Goodwill, yes, absolutely. The American Legion on El Camino Real, Redwood City, is collecting items right now for their parking lot sale in June. All sales go to care packages for veterans and troops abroad. Thank you so much for sharing that, Yolanda. May we have a special holiday for veterans, so great tip.
Yeah, great story. I used to donate to a place called Dress for Success in San Jose. Have you heard of it?
Oh, yes, I have.
The mission is to empower women to be in the workforce, economic empowerment. But I don't know if they do it now, but maybe probably soon. Once
it would be worth looking into. I agree with you, Tina. Dress for Success. I love their mission of supplying business clothing to women who are looking for jobs. And what's great about them is they'll actually curate outfits and provide a whole wardrobe for women in need in the sizes that are that they're looking for. So the more different types of sizes that they receive, the more help they're able to provide to multiple clients.
PARCA stands for Partners and Advocates for Remarkable Children and Adults. And they have a drop-off center in Redwood City, and they will also pick up if you schedule a pickup.
Thanks for the tip. I'm in San Jose. We don't have a PARCA here, but good to know that it's available in your area. That's fantastic. What a beautiful mission.
Hey, Grace.
Yes.
I'm Bruce. I work at a senior center here, and we have a lot. Something interesting, and I never thought about it, but it's come up more and more lately, is that people always for the wedding when they get married, they get wedding dishes. and their sets, and that's kind of always been tradition. And so we have a lot of seniors who will come in and say, oh, we'd like to donate our entire China set, because younger kids, they don't want it. And so we hear all the time, are you in need of a China set or dishes and things like that? And the one lady said, well, you know, she got her mom's wedding dishes. They got their own dishes. And she said that her husband passed away a year ago and she's never used either set. So it just shows you that some things are very precious to one generation, and then a couple of generations later, they're not interested in it.
Yeah, that's that has been a long-standing tradition. People will sign up on their wedding registries to and try and work over years and years to complete a set for the magical time and place to serve, and they end up not using it and giving it away.
And another thing is, if you can see behind me, this
yes,
this gigantic desk that I have here at work that they got for me. All it is pretty much a holder for my pictures of my grandkids up here, and for my computer and a couple of pencils. Everything else in there, I look at it and I can say and throw it in the garbage. So big desks, since we have laptops and phones, are becoming obsolete too.
You know what, Bruce, that's an excellent point. But how lovely you have a place to showcase these photos.
Even though no one comes in my office anymore, so.
At least not right now, right?
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for sharing. I love hearing about nonprofit organizations, the work that they do, and the causes that people in community hear about. So thanks for entertaining me on that one. So tip number 9. Tip number 9 is be realistic. So, you know, some of us aren't very realistic about the items that we have. So what you see pictured here is a man's closet. Let's call this man John. Is there a John here? Let me take a look. No John's here. Okay, cool. I'm safe. Okay, so this is John's closet. To the left here are his size 28 pants. Then moving to the right are 30s, then some 32s, then a bunch of 34s, and finally a pair of 36s, or sorry, 3 pairs of 36s. Okay, so there are 20 pairs of pants here in this closet, and John, he only fits into 3 of them. So why is John holding on to all these pairs of pants? He thinks that he's going to get back into them someday. And the reality is, I hate to break it to John, but he probably won't. And if he does, these pants will be like way out of style by the time he gets back into them. So it's okay to give away the 28s, the 30s, the 32s, and just rock those 36s. Food is the same way. Be realistic about food. Those dates that say it's expired, those dates are real. And why do we hold on to food? Well, because our parents told us about real hunger during the Depression. My mom, she's an immigrant from another country. And in that, you know, she fled a country because it was, you know, they were under a dictatorship. Food was really scarce. So we had to eat everything that was pretty much given to us. So that's the, you know, just know that there's some real attachment with food. It's been ingrained in us. So a helpful hint if you have moved twice and took the food with you both times, I'm guilty of this, it's probably expired. I totally own up to that one.
Are there rules for Best Buy dates?
So Best Buy dates are dates that, that's a great question. So Best Buy dates are put on by the manufacturer. It's their way of telling consumers that this is when it is absolutely fresh, or it's at its peak freshness. What I would do is, just go through the refrigerator and do the sight and the smell test. So if there is any sort of funky smell, or if it looks a little off, then it's okay to toss it. So tip 10, pare down paper and photos. So we've saved the best for last, paper. So paper, including books, mail, I should say, photos. And paper is the hardest because it represents potential. So potential contacts, potential lost friendships, potential dates, potential phone numbers, potential money, potential memories. It's all about potential. And we naturally don't want to lose those things. So we hold on to paper. We recommend shredding all mail if you have a micro shredder. And if you don't have a shredder, what we recommend is putting a cardboard box in the trunk of your car. So when you take your mail out of the mailbox, rip it up into small pieces, the junk mail into small pieces, and then throw it into the cardboard box. That way, when it's full, you can drive to a free shredding event and dispose of the contents safely. Pictures are another big part of the paper conundrum. And what we say at AARP is you don't have to save all the pictures. Here's a helpful tip for thinking through what you save. If you don't know the names of all the people in the picture, you don't have to keep it. So just a way to weed a lot of photos out. So one of the tips that we give is that you keep 100 pictures that you like, and then write out the names of the people and the stories attached to the people in the pictures. At the end of the day, it really isn't about the photo itself. It's about the people and the emotions behind the stories. You're most likely the only one who does know all the people in the pictures. So it's our job to write those down. And this is something that your family does care about. Your family cares about the stories. So our suggestion around that is keep 100 or so photos in a few gallon-size slide lock bags, I should say. Write the stories on each picture and consider getting rid of the rest. You don't have to necessarily throw them away, but if you have people in your life who would like the photos, go ahead and give those photos away. So the main thing I hope you'll remember about this presentation is that it's more about the stories, emotions, and the people, and not about the stuff. So celebrate the stories and get rid of the stuff. So at this time, I see that there's a lot of wisdom in this room. A lot of great tips have been shared already. I'd like to invite you to share your downsizing and decluttering tips in the chat, or go ahead and unmute yourself if you like. And then also, if you have any questions, place those into the chat too.
This is Keith. I was going to share a personal experience. My dad was in the military, and we traveled. We were transferred constantly. Some of it happened before I was born, and some of it happened after I was left home. But my parents moved 22 times in 25 years.
Wow.
With a permanent residence. And Dad's rule was, if it doesn't fit in a duffel bag, you don't need it. And so I've though I'm far beyond that age, I never forgot that. So, and in spite of knowing that rule, and in spite of trying to personally enforce that rule, I'm as guilty as anybody is about collecting too much. If I showed my camera around my office here, mine doesn't look any different than anybody else's. But it is a rule I thought I might mention that if it doesn't fit in a duffel bag, you don't need it.
You know what, Keith? That is some good advice, and I could imagine a military family member giving that same advice to me as well. Just keep it light. You know, even as we're traveling, traveling light is a great tip, especially as we get older. We're just not able to carry as much, and so traveling light is the way to go. You know, it's getting with the way that, not that we're traveling a whole lot now, but you know, with the way that a lot of airlines are paring down their staff, and then also having to pay for extra bags. You know, it's not guaranteed that our things could come with us when we put them on the luggage carousel. So if you could keep it all with you, that's usually the best way to travel, if you can.
Thank you. I've recorded that message for my wife. I'll pass it on.
You could tell your wife that a certified aging in place specialist from AARP endorses that message.
I would
Oh.
like to tell me where I can recycle encyclopedias.
Ah, gosh, that is a tough one. Does anyone know where someone could recycle encyclopedias? I know that my mom's tried that, and no one will take them. Does anyone have any advice?
You know, at our store, we don't take them either. And your best bet is just to bite the bullet and recycle them in the trash or the recycle bin.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm an artist.
Libraries don't want them. Nobody wants them, especially with the internet nowadays.
Yes, Karen, I see your hand up.
I also, I'm a building designer and I'm also an artist. And the world of book arts is, there are many artists who embrace old books, old papers, photos, and repurpose them. I took a few encyclopedias in my time, and I've redistributed them because they get too big. But if you look at the world of local artists, they're often, there's often a place, there may be people who are attracted to it. Just saying. And
Okay.
I recycle a lot of things I make. I make journals. I'm using grocery bags to make, journals. I'm using my parents' old photos to make collages. There's a way, and you don't have to be artistic, and you can have fun with it.
You know, Karen, I really love that tip. So embracing your inner artist to recycle some items. I know that I have here a couple of luggage tags that my boss made for me that have been made out of cardboard, and she's taken. What she's done is she's made a collage from like old media, like so from magazine articles to design the luggage tag. And so I have these cool luggage tags that, I don't have to buy anymore, that people spend, $10, $12 on. And, I have something that's personal from her as a gift.
That's
Diana, I see your hand up.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to relate an experience. My mother-in-law passed away about 4 years ago, and she was a widow for 15 years. And she was 93, and her 5 children had to clean her house. It took us 3 months 5 of us, cleaning her house. And at the end, we had to dump things out the window for Junking to pick up. And that cost us $2,500. And after that experience, I heard something about the best inheritance you can give your kids is to declutter before you go, not after, not leave it up to them to decide, how to get rid of stuff, especially at a, stressful time when maybe they want to sell your house, but they have to clear it first. It was a bad experience.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Diana. Yeah, and you had 5 people that were helping in this effort, and it still took 3 months. So yeah.
I'll chime in with that. When
Yes,
when my parents passed, I had over 60 years worth of stuff in their house, and they weren't really collectors, but I had my great grandmother's china, I had my grandmother's china, I had furniture, I had like multiple generations. And one of the easier ways that we got through it is that my husband was neutral to the furniture and some of the items. So sometimes it's easier if he just kind of, put things aside, and then I picked out the heavily sentimental pieces. And I kind of made a way station in my garage where things would come in. And now I can finally go through it when the emotional charge is off, because it's just too much. And I swear I'm not going to do this to my stepsons, because they don't care about my great grandmother's china. I mean, it's just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Karen, because that highlights one of the first tips that we had around getting help and, just recruiting the people in your life who are close enough where they would be, where you'd want them to help you and feel comfortable with them around, but also objective with the items. And then I like your tip around putting those things aside, and then when you're in the emotional space of being able to revisit that effort, then you could do that. So yes, thanks for sharing that. I see in the chat, Yolanda says, if you haven't used it in 2 years, you probably won't use it. So just get rid of it. That is a good tip. Sometimes you just have to put this objective, try to be as objective as possible, and whatever work that you need to get yourself into a space where you could emotionally do this. That's the way to go. But that's a good tip. 2 years. If you haven't used it in 2 years, it goes. And then I see here also in the chat, back to Parka, so they accept clothing and household items, but not furniture. Yeah, sometimes getting rid of furniture is really tough. Only some organizations accept furniture, so do your homework ahead of time. A lot of these places will pick them up. And I would say that as we're early into spring, if you have the wherewithal to do it now, calling on these organizations to come pick up the stuff as soon as possible is probably the way to go, as more people, as springtime progresses, we'll be trying to donate things, and they won't be able to process requests as quickly and as easily. So doing it now or as soon as possible rather than later is the way to go this spring. I also find that if you have the wherewithal to go even outside this area, outside the Bay Area, and find organizations that have affiliates in outside areas, that may be the way to go as well. The Bay Area is very, while there's a lot of need, there's also a lot of wealth here. And so processing these donations from these nonprofit organizations, they're just going to get bombarded as springtime comes around. So the sooner the better. Yes, Bruce, I see your hand up.
Me again, the guy who works at the senior center. Another good investment is a scanner, like a stack scanner, so you can just put all of your papers in there. Make sure it does both sides. Being at the senior center, I have minutes and meeting notes from, I think the latest one is 1986. We're not allowed to throw them away for whatever reason. So instead of, and even though everybody on the agenda has passed away, some of that stuff we're still supposed to keep. So you just scan it and you save it on your computer. So
that's an excellent point, Bruce. So there's technology out there that could help you save things digitally. So a scanner is a great tool for that. And there are some documents that you don't want to just throw everything away, right? So tax documents you want to keep for seven years, documents that you can't easily replace, identification documents, those things you want to save. Although it is helpful that, if you have a camera, many of us have like a basic camera on the phone, taking pictures of those documents are a great backup to have.
you can also scan your photographs too.
And you could scan your photographs too. Absolutely. I see a question in the chat, and maybe, Karen, I don't want to put you on the spot, but Judith is asking about how does one find these artists or get connected to artists who may be interested in some of the stuff that could be used for multimedia projects.
You can email me.
Okay.
And I'll forward that into chat. I work with the Bay Area book artists. They're typically, if you find artists who like to resource things, librarians, many of the book artists are actually librarians, so they're always using old books. They're finding ways to repurpose. They'll make art into the books as well as rip the pages out and use them for found poetry. There's lots of ways, but Bay Area book artists, I would start there. I would use your Facebook, if you have some social media, ask artists, use Nextdoor. That's another way, because I found old books and I have given away old books through both ways. I think each of the libraries are trying to get rid of books, especially if they're outdated. So I wouldn't necessarily, haul them off to the library because they're trying to, get rid of them too. Let's see what else. If you have a cultural affiliation, for instance, like I also belong to the Asian American Women Artists Association. They're out of San Francisco. I'm here in Redwood City. So, but there are other artist groups that, may be, in your circle that you didn't know. So I would start there, and I'm going to put my information in the chat.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing, Karen.
I have a neighbor who advised me one time I wanted to get rid of something. She says, just put it on your sidewalk and it'll be gone the next day. And and sometimes we put out bulky item pickup for the garbage company. One time we put out a barbecue thinking it was, we never use it. It was gone before the garbage could pick it up. So I've gotten rid of stuff that way. If it looks semi-attractive, it's gone. And some of my neighbors have little boxes, they look like mailboxes outside their house, and they put books in there. And I guess it's for sharing. I don't know. I don't know how successful that is, but you know, they find books in there. We pass by and see them.
I have a short story for Barbara, who can probably relate. I used to work for the city with Jerry Schnell, and I worked in as a building inspector in code enforcement, and we would always get a lot of stuff. We had other words for it, but for instance, we'd get an old bicycle and Jerry goes, "What am I going to do with this bicycle?" I said, I know what to do. Just put it in the back of my city truck on a Friday. I guarantee by Monday it will be gone. Just saying. Gone. So I put stuff out on my side, outside of my property, make sure that I don't leave the keys to the car. And it is, if there are people who want it, I don't know where they are, but they do want it and they will walk by. And I have put anything I can think of. So, and it helps somebody. So that's awesome.
Yes, and it's not in your house anymore, and it's not in your garage. I see here in the chat, home consignment on Industrial Road in San Carlos picks up, and they will give you a percentage of the sale. Furniture, lamps, accessories. That's a good tip. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing, everyone. These are all fantastic tips. And as I go around the virtual Zoom space, I'll be sure to share your tips with other audiences. So thanks so much for that. So if you remember at the start of the presentation, there was a picture of a person that did take this stuff with them. Could anyone remind me the name of that iconic person? Go ahead and type it into the chat or unmute yourselves. Who was it? He tried to take all his stuff with them. So it was, yes, thank you, Sally. King Tut. So what you see here is, well, the photo on the left is what was found in King Tut's tomb. The image on the right is an image of the everyday American garage, cluttered and full of stuff. There's quite the resemblance here. So King Tut could not take all of it with him in the next life, and neither can we. So just something to remember. Thank you everyone for your time. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much, Sonia. Appreciate
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
The audience, I'm going to launch a poll. If you could help us, please click on it. Thank you, Grace Sonia.
Thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Nice meeting you all.
Thank you.